Welcome back to another episode where we bring you last week's top AI news along with insights we are uncovering on our entrepreneurial journey. Drop your thoughts in the comments and help shape where this podcast goes next. We are listening.
I'm Giorgio Zinaro.
I'm Ivan Peña, and this is Bootstrap for Cash. Good morning, Giorgio. How are you doing today?
Hey, Ivan, not too bad. How about you?
Today I want to propose you something, a challenge. Are you up for it?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So lately, I'm listening to all these podcasts that I send you from time to time, right? And since we started our podcast, my brain developed this annoying skill of detecting filler words on people talking. So it's quite annoying because before I completely ignored them and I was happy with that, right? I always say that in ignorance you find happiness. And it's true. Right now it's so annoying. And there are many public speakers, people that do public speaking every day probably, and they use filler words or pragmatic markers, right? Like exactly like this one that I said just now, right? So for instance, you have my dear Simon Sinek, you know about him. He uses a lot, right? At the end of a sentence. Or, I also listened today to one of Mr. Beast. I mean, he's not really a public speaker, but he's the biggest content creator in the world, right? And he's using constantly like, and it's like, and then like, a lot of likes. So my proposal for you today is let's try to avoid filler words. I don't want to avoid them all, like all these pragmatic markers and so on. But let's start with something simple. Let's just try to avoid
Makes sense. Should make the editing much faster.
Yeah, definitely. So for people that are trying to create a podcast out there, to avoid you need to force a silence. Silences are not bad. Although your brain is telling you that are really bad and you need to avoid them at all costs, it's not like that. It's actually a good practice. So let's try to do that. Let's try to avoid the filler word and try to make a pause, think about what we are going to say. In any case, afterwards in the editing, I can just remove the silences if I want to.
So you were going to say going to remove the arms, and so we would be cheating.
Yes. No, the arms, I will not remove them this time. I normally remove them, to be honest. But not this time. Let's try to do this. Is that okay for you?
All right, let's give it a shot.
Good. So today we are going to try another format. We are always doing this, right? Trying new formats. The next week is going to be yet another format. And we are really hoping that you enjoy the one next week because it's going to be a conversation among 4 friends talking about or maybe speculating about what AI is bringing in the future for many different topics. But that's for the future. Let's stick to today's podcast. Today, since last week, we already tried this format of doing a review of the last news on AI. And it seems that it worked quite well. The numbers are quite good, actually. And I'm not sure if it's about the format or about the different topics or the clickbait on our title or or that just people are listening more to us for whatever reason. I don't know. It's really difficult. And this is something I wanted to discuss with you guys, listeners out there. We know you are listening because we see you in the numbers. So please help us to evolve this podcast. So this is a really early stage on our podcast. So you're in a really good position to influence it. Because whenever this podcast goes wild, if that ever happens, it will be quite hard for us to analyze the different metrics and the comments and so on. So now is the right time. If you want to influence this podcast, this is the time. Please leave us a comment so we can know what to do next. In the meanwhile, since this is not happening anytime soon, probably, we will just try new things every week. So let's structure today's podcast in 2 sections. One, let's go through all AI news we found from last week. And then let's do some company's update, although there is no company yet, but you know what I mean. Because if you remember, maybe our listeners forgot, we started this podcast to track our journey of entrepreneurship. And at some point, I guess we missed that point and we started doing a lot of AI shit. But it's what the numbers are telling us, right?
Yeah, exactly. We're just sticking to what the analytics suggests.
Exactly. We are data people. We are engineers. So let's stick to the AI news. The first news is this new paper from the MIT, released, I think, last week or 2 weeks ago, in which they claim that LLMs affect our ability to understand and remember texts such as essays, academic papers, or scientific documents. And I guess this is expected, right? If you use calculators, you forget about how to do math quickly, right? But is calculators affecting us in any way? Because there is a lot of clickbait surrounding this paper out there on the internet. Many people claim that LLMs are doing us more stupid or making us more stupid. But at the end, it's the same case here, right? Or mobile phones. Do you remember? I don't know, Giorgio, because you're quite young. But I remember that I remembered at some point all my phone numbers from all my contacts, or at least the most important ones. And this is not the case anymore, because since we have smartphones, our mobile phones, everything is there. So why should I remember that?
I don't even remember mine anymore. I need
Exactly.
to go and check it because I have more than one.
Me too. And normally when I'm with a boomer and they ask me for my number for whatever reason, and I tell them, wait, I need to check. They look at me like, why do you have to check your phone number? Sorry, I'm a millennial. I use phones. But I don't want to get into much detail about this topic because we are going to talk about it next week. I just wanted to mention it like it's something that you might heard. There is newspaper from MIT. I will leave the link in the comments so you can check it if you want. So you are prepared for next week's discussion. So let's go with OpenAI.
Of course.
There is a lot going on with OpenAI lately. So the first thing is that OpenAI and Microsoft are in a really tension situation. It seems Microsoft wants to take a piece of the pie of all the new AI products that OpenAI are releasing lately, because they said, or they claim that this is by contract. The contract they signed like 6 years ago, I think it was, said that a piece of the revenue that OpenAI was to make would belong to Microsoft. And OpenAI claims that that was the status quo in the past, right? So they would get what those products, when they signed this contract, would produce. So now it seems that OpenAI is going to, or is accusing Microsoft of anti-competitive behavior and seeks regulatory review of the terms of the contract. And at the same time, Microsoft claims that their investment and support during all these 6 years helped OpenAI to achieve what they are today, right? And in a way, I think they're right. But is that enough to get a piece of everything that OpenAI is going to release now and in the future? What do you think?
Yeah, it's tricky. Yeah, I don't know. It's very tricky. I mean, with everything OpenAI went through so far, and now this thing that they are changing from being a not-for-profit to a for-profit company. It's so messy. I'm not even sure what to think about it. I also read, I think I saw it today actually, some other small piece of news. OpenAI is also trying to compete now with both Microsoft and Google actually. Because we also mentioned last week, they're also now doing partnerships with Google, especially Google Cloud for compute power. But apparently they're also now launching, or at least they're developing a competitor to, Google Workspace and Microsoft, 365, right? The Workspace software, so email, calendar, and stuff. So they really don't know how to use their money, I guess, at this point.
Did you see also that they released this device? I think it's recording. I think it's on Mac only or desktop.
Oh, yes.
That records. Filler word. It records all the conversations and so on from a meeting. And there were some news saying like OpenAI just killed thousands of startups around this topic, right?
Yes.
So that's actually an interesting topic. And I wanted to write something about it. I don't know if it's going to be a post or a blog or I don't know. But it's an interesting thought that you and I talked in the past. How can you avoid nowadays that these big companies kill your business in a week? Or not even these big companies, but maybe some vibe coder that has no clue about coding and suddenly he has a wonderful idea, goes to Lovable or Replit or something like that, and they come up with a product in a week and they kill your business for whatever reason. It's an interesting discussion, maybe not for today because otherwise we will go wild. Another news is that OpenAI, I don't know if you heard, but OpenAI hired or bought this company or startup called IO from Johnny Ive. And he's the ex-Apple, this famous ex-Apple designer behind the main Apple products. I think he designed products like iPhone, iPod even, iPad as well. And they hired him because OpenAI wants to get into the device or hardware device business to integrate their models. But it seems that there is another startup called IO, which is IYO. And they sued them for trademark infringement. And because of that, a judge ordered OpenAI to stop using IO. And this is pending of hearing in October this year. And of course, some old man called this lawsuit silly and shared some emails publicly on Twitter, I think it was, where the founder of this startup tried to sell the startup to OpenAI, and I think they rejected. I don't know exactly the details. And now they are suing them because of trademark infringement. And they had to remove all the IO branding stuff that they published some weeks ago until everything calms down, I guess. But there were already some details in this lawsuit that revealed that everybody believed that IO were going to release a wearable device. But it seems this is not going to be the case, according to the details of this lawsuit. It seems that it's going to be a more complex hardware device. We don't know yet the details, but if you are interested, we will leave also the link to the lawsuit in the description. I'm actually quite interested or looking forward to seeing what they are going to release, because this guy really changed how people interact with hardware, right?
It's quite the track record.
Exactly.
The innovation he brought at Apple, in the past years when he was at Apple, has been considerable.
Now let's move to Meta. So if you remember last week, we said that they acquired this company, Scale AI, together with their CEO, Alexander Wang. Well, this month, it seems that they tried to acquire also Perplexity, and that was before Scale AI. So I guess because the rejection for Perplexity, they decided to buy Scale AI. I don't know, or maybe they wanted to buy both. I mean, they have enough money for both of them, it seems. And at the same time, they also tried to acquire Safe Superintelligence Inc., the startup from Ilya Sutskever. If you don't know Ilya, he is the co-founder of OpenAI and father of GPT, of the GPT model. So he knows his shit. But it seems that he also rejected the offer. And now they're trying to take the CEO of this company, Daniel Gross, and also the former GitHub CEO, Nat Friedman, who are planned to work under Alexander Wang in this new Meta Superintelligence lab. But it seems that Mark Zuckerberg is going nuts with this topic, right? He really wants to beat OpenAI and Google and make Llama, I don't know, like the number one out there. What do you think? Do you think he will manage?
I don't know. Well, they managed to do a lot of work on their identity, I think, in the past few years. I mean, Facebook was in a very bad place, if you think about it. And with that, their whole company at some point.
They're always in a bad place.
Yeah, I guess they always are.
Yeah.
At least they did some good PR work at some point. But yeah, maybe they're not in a very good place still. And to be honest, the part where I'm most skeptical about, maybe we'll get to that later, but from a technology point of view, they're really bad at what they do. Like, I feel like the only really good thing that comes out of Meta from a technology standpoint is probably WhatsApp.
Yeah, but they didn't invent it, right?
And they didn't invent it. And actually, since WhatsApp has been under the Meta group, it only became worse. So,
except for one thing, the peer-to-peer connection. Because before, if you remember WhatsApp at the beginning, they didn't even encrypt their messages, so everything was plain text. And at some point, they introduced the same as in Telegram, right? Like the peer-to-peer messaging, unencrypted, of course.
Yeah, end-to-end encryption, yes. But yeah, even then, I feel like there are rather apps out there that are doing a better job. Like Signal also comes from the same, from somebody who was at WhatsApp before. Again, the original inventors of WhatsApp. But again, if you take that one out, I don't think they're doing so much innovation nowadays. And yeah, whether they manage to pull this off now with Llama, I don't know. Surely they're putting lots of money on it and getting some really smart people. Remains to be seen whether they let them actually do their magic.
I'm curious, what do you think about WhatsApp still being number one? Why do you think this is the case when we know for sure that there are better products out there?
I mean, it's the network, right? It's always the network. It's the critical mass achieved by the network. So it's just dragging people in. It especially, I mean, maybe if you're listening from the US, you won't feel if you feel so strongly about it, but especially here in Europe, or if I think especially, well, I can say also in Italy, I see that a lot. For some things, you just need WhatsApp. Even for business, you just need WhatsApp because that's what business is happening, and everybody is on there. So you genuinely cannot be without it. You can survive without Facebook. You can survive without Instagram. You can't survive without WhatsApp because so much is happening on it. You just cannot avoid it. And the more people are there, the more you need it. The harder it is to get people out. It's really hard to challenge this kind of.
But it's interesting, right? Because we are not talking about a product that if you change it in your core business, is going to destroy you and you're going to waste a lot of millions and so on. It's just changing a chat provider,
Yes.
right? So it's really interesting to see that people, I already tried in the past to move away from WhatsApp, but I couldn't. I had to come back because it's true that everybody is there. And I tried to convince my environment to move to Telegram, but eventually it didn't happen because those people that are my environment, they have their own environment and they couldn't convince, or they didn't want to convince their environment to move. And so I guess this has to happen in a exponential way.
I was going to say in a forced way, like yes. by regulation. Yeah, it's probably the way. Yeah, because what's the added value that others would get if you convince them? I tried to move people to Signal, but the problem is, it's easy that it becomes, how to say, that it's endemic. Like if I move, I can help you move, and in our own group, maybe we have a small group, we can move that one. But before you get to the same point that you can have an entire network. Also, I guess most people don't really see the value. At least, maybe they didn't see it so far. I think nowadays, with everything that's happening around the world, I think more people will start to think again about privacy and where the data is stored, who can access their data. Also the metadata. We mentioned end-to-end encryption. Fair enough. As far as we know, or let's say all evidence suggests that Meta cannot see the content of your messages.
Mm-hmm.
Fair enough. We can even assume that's true. But they do have access to a lot of metadata.
Mm-hmm.
They can track people across the platforms. So they've got your phone number, they've got your contacts, they see who you're talking to, they see the people you're in a group with. They've got the same data across Instagram and Facebook. That metadata is even more important than the content of the messages per se, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And they are tracking all of that. I think people are starting to realize that maybe it's really not that good. Even all the people used to say, "Oh, but I've nothing to hide," then why should I use something secure? Yeah, it's not that simple.
If this is the current state, imagine what they will be able to do if they manage to hire all these people and evolve this Meta Superintelligence lab. I mean, it can be crazy.
Yeah.
So the next one is Apple. I didn't know about this one, actually. I found it while researching about the other news of the acquisition of Perplexity and so on. But it seems Apple is also having internal discussions about buying Perplexity. And this makes sense, right? If you remember one of our podcasts in the last weeks.
Yes.
They are really losing this battle. So I guess they are so desperate as Mark Zuckerberg. So they are going to invest probably some billions in trying to buy Perplexity. This is not a closed deal. Actually, I couldn't find many details yet, just that there are some talks happening. But it makes sense, right? They want to integrate Perplexity probably in their AI search capabilities in Safari, because right now, if you know, they use Google, or Google pays them to be the default search engine in Safari. And this was perceived by the US authorities. I don't remember exactly the authorities, but regulatory probably. They perceive that as
I think it's an anti-competitive behavior.
Anti-competitive behavior, exactly. So that would be one smart move, right? To move away from Google.
Yeah, although I don't know if that's the best use of their money, to be honest.
No, to be honest, no. Probably, I mean, their AI is so bad. Siri is so bad. And Apple Intelligence is so bad. I'm not sure if Perplexity is the right choice to replace or to improve all those products. Right now, for instance, do you use Perplexity at all? I used it for a while, but now I don't even have it open in my browser.
No, I think that's interesting, right? It was all the rage initially, like I think 1 year ago, something like that. It was very useful because they were I think they were the ones, probably the first ones who managed to make it not, like, to make LLMs not hallucinate as much.
Mm-hmm.
I would say you would get validated replies, like you get actually quotes where replies came from, so you could verify more easily. But nowadays, I don't think I'm not quite sure where they're innovating, and yeah, it's true that they're not very much in the news anymore. Maybe that's why so many are trying to buy them. Maybe they're undervalued now, or maybe they're fairly valued compared to other startups, but just the crazy valuations. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's true that they're not so much in the news lately.
Another one is Google. There is not much bad news happening right now with Google, but more new releases. One of them is our expected Gemma 3N. Now it seems that it's fully released, so we can give it a try. If you remember, we talked about it in our podcast. Gemma 3N is this on-device multimodal model that you can run on phones, and that's what we wanted for Ecopilot. And it actually includes voice transcription, right? So we wouldn't need to use Whisper anymore if it works well, because if it works like the translation service from Google, that ignores completely punctuation and commas and all that, it's going to be useless anyway. But yeah, we wanted to give it a try, but I guess we are still too busy to do it.
Yeah, so many things.
The other product is Gemini CLI, and here I wanted to ask you, Giorgio, what do you think? Is again Google playing Google?
Yeah.
So now they have Gemini CLI and they have Jules. So why do you have two products doing the same thing? Well, actually, Gemini, it seems that it's more powerful. You can create VO3 videos and all that, and you cannot do that with Jules. Jules is more focused on pure coding. But why? Why so many products overlapping the other?
They're not 100% overlapping, I think you could say, or they're also competing with, so they're trying to compete on different levels also with others. Like also we've got, I don't know, like OpenAI, Codex, and then there is also Codex CLI. But yeah, I agree that it probably is Google being Google, I think. I mean, it's a very large company. It's something I've heard a lot from people there. It's just the way it works. You end up sometimes like inventing the same thing or working on very similar products because you cannot have so much coordination at that scale. It's just the way very large companies work. I mean, at some point you cannot just coordinate everything you do at a global level, and sometimes you just have different teams maybe inventing similar things. Usually it's chat, actually. They're inventing messaging apps all the time. But at some point, Google had like 16 messaging apps across different platforms. I mean, at least now I feel like this is more innovative than inventing new messaging apps.
Well, the good thing is they are doing everything open source, even this CLI. So that, in a way, helps the market to lower prices and be more competitive. So thanks, Google, for that. And another news is Reddit is considering using World ID. If you don't know about it, this is this verification system which basically scans your iris. And it was co-founded by Sam Altman. I think it was a couple of years ago when they founded it. And they offer crypto to people, certain token, to scan your iris. And then people started to claim that it was a lack of privacy, that you shouldn't do it, and so on. But now it seems that Reddit is considering to use it to verify users. And this is a bit concerning, because if these data privacy concerns are real, and this is going to become a standard, because Reddit has a very good position in the market. So if Reddit uses it and it works, it might become a standard in other platforms. And this might be also concerning.
Yeah.
Especially in Europe, where we love regulations about data privacy and so on.
I guess it's for the best at this point. Yeah. I won't complain about Europe. I will give it to them on this one. It gets pretty scary pretty soon. Yeah, let's see.
But did you know that those regulations they came up with are not applying to military? I found out the other day that the regulations, there is a clause somewhere that they say all these regulations apply to everything and so on, but not to military use. And it's like, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the most dangerous one, you leave it out.
I guess you can't really control them anyway, can you? It's
probably not.
Yeah. Let's see what happens at this point. It's just too much.
Mm-hmm. This last one, I wanted to bring it. I mean, it's not such a hype. I mean, it's still some hype-ish thing, but it's quite interesting. Like this guy,
a bit clickbaity as well, to be honest.
It's quite clickbaity. But I wanted to bring it because that could be us, Giorgio. So it seems this Israeli guy vibe-coded a vibe coding tool called Base44 in 6 months. And he sold it to Wix recently for 80 million cash. And if you remember, I don't know if it was the second episode, or I don't remember which one was it, but I told you maybe we should create another Lovable because we know how to do it better than them. But we didn't do it. Actually, we created a poll for you to vote, but only one person voted, and he or she, well, they voted no. So I guess it was discouraging. But this could be us. Now we could have 80 million cash.
Although, to be honest, they say, I said it's clickbaity, say this guy, solo founder, but then it's apparently 8 people
Yes.
working on it. And I don't know, there were some other inconsistencies in the story. But yeah, good for them. To be honest, I don't know if I would have sold. They were generating 200k a month. I don't think I would have sold for 80 million at that point.
But this is also an interesting topic, to be honest, that I wanted to discuss at some point with you, is when is the right time? I mean, we are not there yet, so hopefully one day we will be, and we will have this real conversation. But when is enough to say, this is the point that I don't want to go forward? So I created this thing, it's generating revenue, a lot of revenue, but the next steps require certain things that I don't want to do myself. And actually, I recommended you a movie the other day, the one from BlackBerry. And it's very interesting because they were in that situation. I mean, every company out there, like big companies, were at that point at some point. And this decision is key because you might be inclined to move forward with your baby because it's your baby. You spend X months, years, and so on, tears, sweat a lot with it to bring it live. And you don't want to let it go. But there is a point that you need to decide whether to let it go and leave it to someone else that can do what is required and just sell and enjoy life. Hopefully we will be in this situation at some point, Giorgio. And I personally think if we had built Base 44 and we were in this situation, I would take the 80 million cash, to be honest.
Yeah, probably, yes.
Because you are done. You are done. Your life is solved. We tried, we made it. And now you can focus on something else. You can bring something new live, or you can focus on your family, which, by the way, pending topic for, at least for me, I guess for you as well, because this is crazy, right? Like entrepreneurship is crazy and it requires a lot of effort and time and few sleep. So at some point you need to take a break. And if it's with 80 millions, then so be it. Good. These are all the news. And I think we are running out of time anyway. But yeah, let's go through the updates. So do you want to give a small update of our product? Maybe not so much details, but enough to complain about Meta.
Yeah, exactly. We can go back to complaining about Meta and developing against their API. I guess it's a mix of interesting things because we're using a fairly new API from Meta. It's a new API that exists since 6 months, as far as I understand. The documentation, sometimes I wonder if the documentation is written by a LLM, somebody who never actually used the API, because it is so inconsistent. And I'm talking like example code. It's not showing you what the actual data looks like, or sample events. They don't look anything like the real events from the API. Although, to be honest, even the dashboard, when you go and test the API against their test environment, the data you get looks nothing like the data you get from the live environment. So it's completely useless. And then you need to go and figure out they've got different secrets, but not all of them are used. I mean, really, from a technology point of view, it's abysmal. And then there is, of course, also the business side of things, because they expect you to be a verified business. And this as well has been going on for what, two weeks now?
Yes, almost 2 weeks.
I think they said they usually do it in 2 days.
I saw some places where they say 14 days, and I think we are not there yet, but we are close to it.
Very close to it. I
Very
think it's
close
going
to
to
it.
take longer than that.
Yeah.
No feedback whatsoever. We have no idea what they're checking.
No way of
It's just-
contacting them.
Yeah, it's really bad. But on the other end, though, you mentioned mode earlier, right? How do you avoid what you do is replicate it too easily. Well, I can tell you this wouldn't be that easy to replicate because there is just so much debugging and troubleshooting and trying to figure out things that if we do manage to pull this through, which is not given, and if we do manage to pull off distribution as well, obviously, that's always the big topic. Though we are optimistic this time. We are feeling optimistic this time that we have a strategy. It's not going to be that easy to replicate this. And I think we also have some very good insights for this product we're building, that we are solving a real problem. So we've gotten direct feedback from somebody who was struggling on Meta's platforms, and we believe this is a problem that is not so valuable for Meta, for Facebook and Instagram to solve, because it affects a small part of the user base, a tiny part of the user base. But for us as indie hackers, it can be quite valuable and quite profitable anyway. So we can put some resources there, and we can also price the product in a reasonable way. So we have our niche, we have a specific problem. We think we can make it happen. We can think everything should line up, but we are also depending on Meta, and that is never a really good thing. But it is what it is, because that's really what the product is all about. So let's see what happens there.
Another topic is about this X challenge. We started a new challenge. It seems that everybody's claiming that in social media you need to be consistent and post every day, even post several times per day, and so on. And I found this ghostwriter, and he explained that he tried this challenge for 1 month, 30 days. So he was posting every day something on X, and he was getting no reaction at all, no likes, no comments, no nothing. But he was consistent, and on the day 29th, he went viral. So I wanted to see if this is possible. So we are now on day 10th. The results are in a way promising, more than that this guy was describing. So I gained 5 followers, not that much to be honest, but still some followers, some likes, quite some views. And the conclusion I gather so far is that if you're starting from scratch with X, probably the best approach is to go to communities. To give you some numbers, if I post directly on my timeline or my feed, I get normally around 50 views. I went to one of the communities, and actually I went to 2 communities, one that was quite big, more than 100,000 users. And there, the numbers were not much higher than my average. But then I went to a smaller community, and then there I got quadruple, so 4 times more reactions or more views. I don't know if this is something that enough to say that you must go to smaller communities, but it's quite interesting data, because normally you would think if I go to a bigger community, there are more people there, so I will get more views and more reactions and so on, but it's not true. You can also go to smaller communities and get good reactions. And in any case, since you are starting, your numbers are so low that even a community of 1,000 people, if you get 300 of them to see your content, and I guess it's easier that those 1,000 people see your content in a small community, because in a bigger community there is more content to be presented. I guess it's more than enough. So yeah, we will keep try to gather data, insights, and share them here. Another thing is our new video content strategy with using shorts. We started with promising data. We published our first short on YouTube and Instagram. On YouTube, we got quickly more than 100 views, which is not normal for us. Our videos get, I don't know, like less than 30 views. And this one was in one day, more than 100 views. On Instagram, it was not that high. It was like 30 or something like that. Then last week, we published a second short, and then it was the opposite. On YouTube, we got around 30 views. On Instagram, we got more than 100 views. So conclusions from this, I have no clue.
Inconclusive.
Inconclusive results. So I guess we will keep trying. But we can already share some stuff, right? So I'm using CapCut to edit these shorts, and Giorgio uses DaVinci for his videos. And I can give you, CapCut is created by TikTok, right? Like company ByteDance, which is behind TikTok. And at the beginning, it was quite simple to use, I was enjoying using it. But at some point, I started using more stuff from it, and it was extremely buggy. So now I'm trying to convince Giorgio to teach me to use DaVinci. So what's your experience with DaVinci, actually, Giorgio?
I mean, it's a real video, I have to say. It's the wrong way to put it, but it's a professional video editor. So you could do a Hollywood movie in DaVinci. I think somebody actually did in the past. So it can be quite complex. You can do a lot with it, so it can get quite complex. But to be honest, the basic features are not that. You just need to understand the basics. But it's true that it is more of more of an old school paradigm, or again, the fact that there is so much that you can do can be off-putting. So some people just get scared by that, but really the basic features are not that complex.
I personally got overwhelmed when I opened it, so I moved to CapCut.
You could say it is overwhelming because it can do so many things. But I guess, yeah, that's also why we were looking at some interesting new products using AI, like this one, I think, captions. Kind of expensive, I would say. Like the first useful tier, I think it's something like $30 a month, if I remember correctly.
That's a lot for our budget, Giorgio.
Which is a lot. But I've seen some videos and it does yield some fairly good results. So let's see, depending on how much we want to invest in video.
Actually, I wanted to ask you about that. How are your plans about your YouTube channel? Because if you're going to start, if you decided already to start with it, maybe we can do the investment, because then we are going to create videos. But I don't want to pay such an expensive tool just to create a couple of videos in 1 month, right?
Yes, we need to be very serious about it. I think it can be a very good distribution channel, especially for the kind of app we're building now, but we need to be in it for the long term.
You didn't answer my question.
My plans for the channel is I really want to do it. I think it's but I need to get started. It's never easy. There's so many things we're doing. Somehow I'm still lacking the inspiration to do at least the very first video. I have a clearer idea now of what I want to do. I do want to target creators specifically. So my idea for the YouTube channel is, as I learn how to run a YouTube channel, because I also need to learn, but I do have quite a good idea of what I want to do. And let's say I've learned through other means, I've studied a lot, so I have an idea. I want to bring my experience also as a software engineer of tooling that you can use to do content creation, and share some. So that would be my audience, I would say. That would be my niche. I want to share some really good toolings and how to use this tooling to do content creation, basically. And again, that can be useful then for our product. I guess part of it is going to be testing also new tools, so yes. I can give better recommendations.
I gave you already an idea of creating a video, a quick guide about DaVinci, for me at least.
Yeah.
So that would be a good start.
That could be one.
Another tool we tried is 11 Labs. I must say, I didn't enjoy the experience. There are different things here. One, I was expecting that the video, I tried the dubbing functionality. So basically you give content in some language and they translate it with your own tone and your own voice to a different language. First of all, I wanted to do it with an audio. It didn't work, although it's supposed to be supported, but it was loading forever. And I tried several times, different browsers, it didn't work. Every time I gave an audio, it was loading forever and telling you almost there, but it was never there. So I tried something different, a workaround, one might say. So I provided a video. So it's like, but if you think about it, it's like, if I cannot handle an audio, why is it going to handle a video? But it managed to handle the video. So I had to create a video, feed it to 11 Labs, and then it worked. When I downloaded it, I was expecting my mouth to follow the audio of the translation, but it didn't because they don't support lip sync.
Oh no.
So my opinion, it doesn't make sense. Maybe it makes sense for someone else out there, but for me, or for what I wanted to do, it didn't make sense that my mouth goes unsynced with the audio. So I had to extract the audio from the video and use it for what I wanted. By the way, can I say why I wanted to create this video? Am I allowed?
I think you can do whatever on Spotify and YouTube.
But not because of me. It's because of the person I was sending it to.
Yeah. Well, we could just say we have a guest.
We wanted to invite a guest, and I'm not going to say the gender. They are a bit skeptical about doing a podcast in English. So I proposed, with 11 Labs, I created my own argument, and I recorded it in Spanish, and I translated it to the other language, this person's language. And then I sent it. But it seems it didn't work out. But yeah, it was basically to convince someone to come to the podcast and maybe try new things. Like, we want to explore something new, which is maybe inviting people that don't speak English, and maybe they speak Spanish or Italian or some other language, and then we interview them, and then we pass everything through 11 Labs or whatever tool to translate everything and post it on Spotify. And that would be also something for our listeners that might be useful. Like, hey, we have these tools. If you're planning to do dubbing or whatever, you can use them. We had a good experience. Unfortunately, I cannot say that I had a good experience with 11 Labs. I even tried to contact them. They don't have a good way to contact them. So I had to use their AI, and you're basically calling some AI or simulating a call. And it was asking me, what's your problem? I explained that I was using their dubbing functionality, but it didn't get it. It's like, I know you are trying to start with our new functionality, but you need to tell me the functionality. Dubbing. Like, yeah, we know that you are starting. So it didn't understand. Maybe my accent is very bad, but with Whisper, I never had this problem. I mean, Whisper got everything I said, right? So it must not be my accent, but the quality of the AI being used, right?
It's not a very, very good publicity.
No, it's not. But yeah, anyway, we will keep trying. Then, should we give a podcast update? So we are seeing, it seems that really consistency works on Spotify, because we are gaining quite some followers and plays and so on. So people are really going to our podcast to listen to whatever we are offering. We don't know yet what it is exactly, but we are offering something. What some discoveries are that, yeah, consistency works. So you cannot go on vacation with Spotify. That's one thing. And the second is that we are losing female audience, Giorgio. We need to do something about it. I don't know what exactly, but more than 80% of our audience are male and 15 female. And the other ones are not specified and not binary. And in age, we are in my generation. Your generation doesn't listen to us much, but my generation does. For some reason, I don't know why exactly. And then from geographics, it seems that Swiss people are listening to us the most across platforms, counting also Apple Podcast. But on Spotify only, it seems Spain is winning. So, Giorgio, we need to convince 2 more Italians to listen to us. And another thing is that I wanted to propose to you, Giorgio, is that it's going to be soon 1 year, our year birthday, working on things on ourselves without working for someone else. It's a bit scary saying this when we are still not getting any money. A bit demotivating. But maybe at some point we should plan a retrospective episode to talk about what we learned.
There is still some time, but it's almost 1 year.
Yes.
Maybe we'll be lucky by then.
Maybe exactly. Maybe we can talk about that we made it at some point, anytime soon. But yeah, it would be nice to do a retrospective.
That lesson in consistency applies to everything, right? Not just posting on Twitter.
Yeah, definitely.
It takes time to build things, and you need to be consistent. So maybe it's about time we actually make it.
Statistically, we are closer to it, Giorgio. So it should happen in any day.
Anytime soon.
Anytime soon, it should happen. But
I mean, we cannot all be as lucky as Rodrigo just building his first product and being profitable.
Yeah,
that's more the outlier than the norm.
Or this guy from Base 44.
Yeah, I don't know if it was his first product either, to be honest. I didn't look much into that. True. I'm pretty sure he can also point to many failures before that one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
I think most successful people can. And I mean, as we discussed even in the other podcast, even with Rodrigo, it's not like there was no hard work and preparation before he got to launching a successful app.
Mm-hmm.
So it takes time.
Yeah, we still feel hopeful, I guess. So that's it for today. Again, we hope you enjoyed it. We're looking forward to the next episode. I think it's going to be very interesting, but at the same time, it's going to be a nightmare for us to moderate and also to edit afterwards, because we never had 4 people at the same time. Actually, you might need, in this case, you might need to do the edit because my laptop is running out of space in the disk. And I'm already having a hard time when we are 3 people because the files from Audacity are occupying like gigs and gigs of space. So I'm a bit scared about 4 people, but let's see.